Hey Lou, welcome to our Leaders Who Care series, and thanks so much for joining us, man.
Mark, I'm really happy to be here. It's an honor, and thank you so much.
My pleasure. It was great seeing you at the Genesis House in New York, having dinner around the 100 billion meal challenge and all that, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But how about if we start pretty normal? How about if you briefly introduce yourself, who you are? Don't tell everything, because then I won't have anything else to do the rest of the conversation. But maybe about your family, who you are, something you've never told anybody in the world that you want to reveal now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm Lou Reese. I'm the executive chairman of Vaccinity, and most importantly, a father of three. I have my eldest son is 11, my daughter is 8, and my youngest son is just about to be 11 months. So have a little spread there. And I'm really blessed to be able to work on things that I think have the largest impact that I can possibly strive for. So I tell people my goals are really straightforward and really simple. I would like us to have the largest impact of any company ever on human health. And after that, my mom will still be disappointed I wasn't a doctor.
That's fantastic. Where are you from originally?
So I was born in Dallas, Texas, and I left there pretty early in kind of my mid-teens, and even earlier actually. I was out of there for the years of 10 to about, I don't know, 15 or 14, about half the time. I had a kind of a varied upbringing. My dad was in prison for almost 5 years. From when I was 10 to right about when I turned 15. And during a portion of that, I spent a lot of time in Ridgeway and the feeder kind of for Telluride, Colorado, with a fake uncle named Jack Petroselli, living in a chicken coop that he called Le Poulet Coupé, and which was a fancy way to say chicken coop. And we would we actually renovated that into a one-bedroom kind of very before tiny houses were a thing. That was our tiny house.
That's pretty good. Le Poulet Coupé, I like that. That's awesome. So when you were a teenager, it sounds like you had an interest in making an impact, whatever that meant to you back then. So what did that mean to you, and when did you discover the infamous why?
Yeah, so my dad was an amazing man while he was alive, and when he got out of prison, he sat me down and he said, "Son, you got to make a plan." And he said, "The thing about a plan is that it'll never go according to that plan. But if you look back at it when you're older and as you age and as you go through life, your professional, your personal, your philanthropic life, your friends, you can actually use that as a sort of guidepost, series of guideposts." And so I just sat there. I said, "Yeah, that sounds like a great idea." And then he said, "Well, what are you doing right now?" And I said, "Well, nothing." He said, "Well, you better be writing that plan." So I sat down and diligently wrote this plan out. And I thought of he was pretty specific. It should involve professional aspirations, family, friends, philanthropic goals, political goals, really just your overall life plan. And it was remarkable, but I sat down and I said, what are the three largest areas of human impact? And I decided that for me, they were real estate, which is where we live, where we work, where we secure our resources, where we grow our food, where we worship, where we congregate, and where we're standing right now or sitting right now. And then energy, and energy was water, energy was food, energy was alternative fuel sources, so solar, hydrogen, fission, fusion, and then ultimately health. And health is really the purpose of this stuff. So energy drives the world, and then if we're not healthy and if our food isn't healthy, then really how are we going to take advantage of the first two? So those were the three areas I set out to have an impact on, and for me, I never really looked back. My mom and dad always encouraged us to think about the people outside of ourselves. And I kind of expanded that and really believe that we should be, really thinking about every interaction and every moment of our lives as an opportunity to improve the lives of others and to improve the world around those other people.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's funny when part of our business is executive search and help our clients get the best talent. And I always tell people that never should be looking for a job or even specifically looking for an opportunity. You should be finding out what's really interesting about other people and what they're doing. And it's amazing how the rest falls into place very well. And following along your lines there, so you studied urban studies, got your MBA. You, what I call, invested about 3 months in banking and so on. And then apparently that was enough for you with respect to PE and family offices and whatnot, for you to know that that wasn't you, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, basically, just one minor clarification. I only got my M because in the middle of my MBA at Columbia, I came back for a break. And I was thinking about, doing something else. And my dad was actually still alive, and we were fly fishing together, and he fell down in the river, and I had to swim through the river and try to rescue him, drag him out. He was a big guy. Tried to drag him out of the river, and care flights and ambulances, trains, automobiles, all the things, but we didn't save him. And ultimately, that really confirmed my decision to drop out of business school. So I tell people I got my M, and I was happy with the master's part. The business administration didn't seem all that necessary.
Wow, that must have been harrowing.
It was, the struggles are what define us, right? And I believe that true leadership is shown not in the good times, but in the bad, and not in the easy decisions, but in the hard, and so it was really challenging. It was unbelievably hard on my mom, unbelievably hard on my sisters, and quite hard on me. Being there in the middle of nowhere by yourself, trying to drag a 270-pound person that bore you was a challenge. And it's something I think about all the time. But yeah, in terms of the banking, so I was at JP Morgan for 3 months. I was the youngest banker on the street. And my goal really was, still all focused around the impact, but I thought that maybe there was something there that was magic, where the resources could be deployed in these ways that would have huge impact and unlock doors and all these things. And it turns out that they weren't there. And basically you were allowed to press a button up or down, some, moderate amount. And that was the entire job. And it was based on risk aversion, and it was based on moving money to make money rather than to make impact. And I couldn't see where what I call tangible impact was being made. So 3 months later, my body viscerally rejected the profession.
No, I love it. I wish I could have done it a little faster when I was in Big 8 that time. Deloitte, it was Big 8, then Big 6, then Big 4, whatever. And but I moved up pretty quick too, because I felt like I was like in something there. And I was inspired when we talked about by your overall goal to quote unquote save humanity, which some people might think, oh yeah, let's go after world peace too, or whatever. But you made a point of specifically, and I don't know if you mentioned somebody told you this or whatnot, but to chase big audacious goals. And so with that, talk about your journey of your investment of knowledge, your investment of capital to democratize healthcare. Importantly for both people and the planet, as you describe it. And one thing before you answer that, I love what you said, is with respect to the planet, that Einsteins are everywhere around the world, you told them. So share about that.
Yeah. So I was, I had my share of hardships, and we talked about a couple of those, but those pale in comparison to people that don't have access to healthcare, people that don't have access to food, potable water, things that really fundamentally affect their development. And I believe that my job is really to do my part in saving humanity, and that means eliminating suffering wherever I can. And in this instance, with health, it really means that we don't know where the next great inventor, the next Einstein is. We don't know where the next Nobel Peace Prize laureate is. We don't know where these people are going to come from, because they can come from anywhere, and they are everywhere. And if we don't have the ability to provide equal access to healthcare, if we don't have the ability for those people to make it to their potential, we are dramatically underserving the needs and the desires and the obligations of this planet. So, for I tell people that every 2 seconds while we're on this call right now, someone is dying of heart disease. And it's unnecessary, because we know how to fix it. And the reason that we're not fixing it is because the existing drugs, statins, are inconvenient. People don't want to take them every day. And did you know that more than half, actually over 60% of people, after they have a heart attack, 1 year later, are not taking their statins in an effective manner? So even after a heart attack, people have a very hard time sticking with something that inconvenient. And so, as one example of the medications we're developing, we have a PCSK9 vaccine against LDL-C cholesterol. And in non-human primates, and now going into its human trials, we've seen that we're reducing cholesterol by over 50%. And if you think about that on an annual vaccination basis, it's convenient, it's remarkably cost effective. We're talking dollars a dose, not thousands of dollars a year. And it absolutely has the opportunity to reach everyone from sub-Saharan Africa to India to Geneva and Riyadh at the same time. And there's never been a drug that has done that, and that has been, universally available from the bottom of the pyramid to the top of the pyramid at the same time. And for me, that's the moral imperative, because every year of life that we increase, every life we save, every person that doesn't have an MI, right? All of those people, doesn't have a heart attack or a stroke, all of those people are absolutely human capital that the world needs. And so I think of that as really, it's not just about the suffering of the individual, it's about the benefit to society that they can offer.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I remember you also chatted about, maybe you can explain this, how fixing planet health can actually come from savings, from better ways to impact human health, and what we can
so
giving equal access to it.
Oh, so sorry, there was a little bit of a lag. That's why I didn't mean to interrupt you there. So basically, imagine if you can eliminate heart attack and stroke, which has been the #1 killer on this planet since we started keeping track. Imagine if you can eliminate Alzheimer's, or prevent Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and migraine, which is the #1 source of missing university days, the #1 source of sick days from work. Imagine if you can actually touch all of these different touch points around the world. And the answer is, it's not billions of dollars in savings, it's trillions of dollars a year in medical savings, right? Amazing, right? And it absolutely changes the resource allocation around the planet. If a fraction of those, 20% of those, are dedicated to solving the environmental catastrophe that is currently facing our planet. We read about it every day. There was another article today in the New York Times. There's another article yesterday on Huffington Post and on Drudge Report. It's every day. And so if we can actually address those major issues, right? We're talking regeneration, not sustainability, because it's time to regenerate, not just sustain where we are, because where we are is no longer sustainable. Right. And if we can preserve endangered species, and not just the animals, but the plants, the things that have given us most of our medicine, over 70% of our medicines have come from organic compounds. If we can actually hold that rich resource close to our hearts and close to our heads, we're going to be able to discover an infinite amount of additional breakthroughs for humanity. And so I think of that as a library. And right now we are burning the books. And it turns out that we haven't read all the books, and we're really going to need to read some of those. So this is really about a holistic approach there. And so, first is by saving people, by lowering the burden on the healthcare systems around the world, by unleashing that human capital and productivity, And by unleashing those actual dollars that are saved towards global causes that are regenerative and preservative and expansive, I think that not only can we save the people, but we can actually have a huge step towards saving the planet. And one of the things that I'm excited about, and that about, and is the natural kind of corollary there for how we project that into humanity, is NASA just knocked an asteroid slightly off course. It was funny when Bruce Willis did it a decade ago or 15 years ago in a movie, and now it's real. We actually have done it.
Right.
And I look at it and I say, that's great. There will probably be a lot of asteroids. There will be unknown threats. And who knows, maybe it's 1,000 years from now, maybe it's 50 years from now, but there are risks that are planetary that we can't control. It could be the super volcano in Yellowstone. It could be all these different things. And so to preserve humanity, and I think of it as preserving consciousness, or the consciousness that we know, I really do believe in long duration space flight. I believe in exploration. I believe in becoming ultimately a multiplanetary species. NASA has the moon base that they're coming up with now and that we're committed to, and as does Elon with the mission to Mars. And I believe, very sincerely that it's my job to help there however I can. And I'm not making rockets, and I'm not, figuring out how to create atmospheres there. But what I can do, and what our platform can do, is provide safe and effective vaccines against the diseases of muscular loss and bone loss. And these are two of the main existing threats to long duration, low gravity and zero gravity exposure. We've all read about the astronaut that went to ISS. That's a twin, Mike. And when he came back, he had lost something like 40% of his bone and muscle density. And that's with a very rigorous and straining exercise regimen that you do while you're on the International Space Station. So imagine a world where you can vaccinate people prior to long duration space flight. And not only that, but those same vaccines could be applicable on Earth for osteoporosis and sarcopenia, the two, combined leading causes of lack of health span. So these are things that I'm excited about, and I think of that as kind of a three-step plan to having impact on saving humanity and consciousness.
Yeah, you're kind of talking about, not to oversimplify, which I get accused of all the time, because hey, I'm only a small white Canadian Jewish guy. What do I know? Type of thing. And so, but you're changing this. You talked to me about this too. The only way to change the system is dreaming outside that system, which I love. I love that. And so you're talking about, how do you see the intersection of human behavior, which has been towards medication after we have something, costs a lot, et cetera, rather than preventive, and the heavy marketing. I mean, you go look on TV now, there's so many pills and medication being marketed. It's unbelievable. People think I have to take stuff, it seems, apparently. How do you change that human behavior using the amazing innovations, technology that you're talking about, and take advantage of the urgency now that the younger generation has to change the future?
So I have a lot of faith in our youth. I have a very firm belief and expectation, which is going to burden them heavily, right? But I believe that people are tired of sick care. They're ready for healthcare. I think that people all around the world, right? Doesn't matter their race, religion, doesn't matter their age. People want their kids, their grandkids, their grandmothers, their parents, their spouses to be healthy. They want them to live long, healthy lives. And so I believe that the motivation is there and is sincere. And I believe that, the dialogue is really shifting. And I believe we're first of all, let me address the advertisements too here, Mark. Those are wrong. And the US taxpayer subsidizes those very advertisements, right? And so I do not agree with advertising drugs on TV and telling people to ask their doctor about them. I think that that is absolutely wrong. It does not exist in Europe. It does not exist in Asia. It does not exist in Australia or New Zealand. It does not exist in Japan, yet it exists in the United States. It does not exist in Central or South America either, to the best of my knowledge. And so that's a problem. And I absolutely do not agree with it. We don't let people pretend like they're doctors, and I don't think that we should encourage them to pretend like they're their own doctors. So I do think that that is categorically not okay. I think we don't allow people to advertise, alcohol and cigarettes targeted to children. We don't allow those advertisements on TV anymore. We used to. I think we're going to look back at this era of advertising of drugs on TV and say, what were we thinking?
Absolutely.
So that's where I'm there. In terms of the youth and this next generation of prevention, so my dad used to say something brilliant. He used to say, we should make the right thing easy and the wrong thing hard. But instead, all the time, we make the right thing hard and the wrong thing easy. So we have this tremendous opportunity here to, and another thing that's one of my favorite sayings for me, is the thing that I hate about people that grow old is that they forget what it was like to be young and not know what they couldn't do. So that ignorance is tremendous power because it allows you to dream of things no one has ever done.
Right.
And I tell my kids all the time, a person who's been an expert in a category that hasn't been solved for 40 years is an expert at not knowing how to do it. So what's an Alzheimer's expert exactly, Mark? They haven't cured Alzheimer's in 40 years. They've spent billions of dollars, lots of trials. I would say that an expert in Alzheimer's more than likely is a person who doesn't know how to solve it. So I like to think about this as an opportunity to be looking outside of the box, be informed, and stand on the shoulders of giants, as Newton would say, so that we can see further. And so the opportunity isn't to, listen to the mantra here. The opportunity is to be elevated by these amazing achievements and learnings, and then to look at it with clear eyes and actually chart a path that will be a solution. So what does that mean? It means that more and more we see people talking about and looking towards prevention, and we're at a tipping point that's caused by the outrageous expenditure in the OECD on healthcare, right? So, the US might be the very last to figure it out, but spending 2 to 3 times more than the next closest, most expensive country for worse results on our healthcare per person is probably not going to be sustainable, right? So the next closest is England. I believe they're 2.5 times less expensive per person per year, and they have better healthcare results. And so that is not something that's going to be long-term sustainable. And the rest of the world has figured it out. There are price controls across Europe, price controls in parts of Asia, government purchases in parts of the Middle East that all drive the cost of the drugs down. And that's why you have people getting in trouble for driving across the Canadian border to buy the exact same drug for 1/10 of the cost that it is across the border 50 miles away in the United States. And so that's something that absolutely needs to be addressed, and something that we believe technology, and our technology is a piece of it, has a huge handle on, and has a huge hand in. So, not to belabor it, but if it were 700 years ago, we were sitting here having the same discussion in person, the most expensive thing on the planet was a book. And less than 1% of the world could read those books. And that same less than 1% had to write them, which is why they were more expensive than gold or salt or the other causes of war at the time. And for the first time in history, right now with drugs, with the largest category of spend in drugs on the planet, monoclonal antibodies, over $200 billion combined sales last year, available to less than 1% of the planet. Okay, so just like a single piece of invention lowered the cost of printing or of publication, the printing press, by over 5,000-fold overnight, our technology, a vaccine technology for long-acting biologics, in effect, lowers the cost of monoclonal antibody therapies and increases the convenience, and we lower that cost by 1,000-fold. So this is the printing press of biologic drugs. This is an opportunity to democratize that in the same way that the printing press democratized books. And so that's the revolution. That's the opportunity for the savings. That's the opportunity for the elimination of suffering. And that's the reason why we wake up every day and just can't be more blessed or more honored to be doing the work we do.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So you're basically solving. I mean, when our firm was launched at the UN about 4.5 years ago, we launched it on the premise that leaders and their businesses can do much better when they're doing good at the same time. So you're actually solving that because you're creating the economic impact and viability, as well as the social and environmental impact as well. And it's funny because going back to the younger generation again, when they're looking to do whatever they want to do, whether it's entrepreneur or work for a company or whatnot, finally we've got to the stage where the only way you can get great people is to show them that that's why we call leaders who care, that the leaders really do care about their people being able to make great money and have purpose at the same time. And that's when you
100%.
get stuff happening.
I really couldn't agree more. I think you're absolutely right. When I was in that plan what I wrote,
Right.
I was 15 years old, so 25 years ago now. I look back, and one of the things that I wrote there was that I wanted my life to have a triple bottom line. And what that meant was that it had to be fiscally responsible, it had to have social responsibility and impact, and it had to have an environmental impact for my environment around me, right, and around all of us. And so that's a very similar concept. You narrowed it down to two, but same points, right? And it really resonates, right? I believe that, and I believe I'm cursed with a sense of purpose. I tell people it's not all good waking up at 5 a.m. knowing exactly why you're on the planet, because it means that you have to keep going. And so I have all sorts of friends that have a much more relaxed existence and lifestyle in terms of they get to sleep a full 8 hours and they take better care of themselves and all these things. But ultimately, I'm really driven by this fundamental sense of trying to help. And I tell my kids every day that every interaction is an opportunity to help the person you're interacting with, because you don't know if opening the door for a stranger makes their day because they're facing a tremendous battle that day. And I believe that fundamentally we're all at different times facing tremendous battles, whether it's a sickness in a family that we don't know about, a loss of a loved one, a loss of a job for a friend or for themselves, an increase in their rent of their apartment, any of these things. Fighting inflation on a global basis because now they can't afford the same amount of food that they were buying before. All of these things are real and unbelievable burdens and battles. And any moment that you have to eliminate even just a second of their suffering is a gift. And it's free to give. All it takes is intention, and all it takes is love. And the brilliant man once told me that, you can't control how tall you are. You can't control the color of your skin or the color of your hair or, the voice you grew up with or any of those things. But you can control whether or not you're kind. And it's always in your control. And to me, it's really about bringing that intention forward with as frequently as I can. Now, I'm human, right? As you know, Mark, I'm absolutely human, and I mess up things all the time, right? And I try my best to show those examples to my kids instead of hide them, because there's no shame in making a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes. The only shame is in not learning from our mistakes and being better.
100%. And I'm going to ask you in a couple of minutes about influencers, but one thing I found that we all should recognize is to your point, we're influencing people every day, all the time ourselves. And you have the choice of doing it positively or negatively. and it seems like an easy choice to me. With respect to it, that you make the right things easy to do and the hard things not. Um, it's right there for us, and it does make a difference for people. When you smile at somebody that's looking down and they feel it, there is a change that happens, even that simple.
100, like I could not agree more. And you know, one small example is that, you know, I've been extremely fortunate in my life, right? And it's not lost on me. And whether it's a coffee shop or buying ice cream for the kids, you know, frequently, and when I have the ability, I'll leave, you know, an extra 50 or $100 there, and I'll have the person pay for everybody behind me in line, and I never tell anyone that I'm doing it. And the reason is that, you know, people say there's no such thing as a free lunch. And I am walking proof that that's a lie. And if those people, you know, if anyone in that line goes on to do something kind to someone else, to someone else, to someone else, you're actually throwing a rock into a very calm pond, and you can watch the ripples move out. And it's actually, you know, I call it, you know, in the PCSK9 battle that we're fighting now, I call it building an army of compassion. And in life, I believe that it's our obligation to spread, you know, love wherever we can. And I tell people, I told, you know, a bunch of world leaders in Riyadh yesterday, the day before, and the day before that. I fly around this world a lot. I meet with a lot of people. And when I'm up in the air and I look down, I've never seen a border. I've never seen a line that said, you know, this is where Germany starts. This is where Italy starts. This is where, you know, Sudan starts. This is where, you know, that's not how it is. And when you're on the ground, like I said, you know, earlier, when you talk to people, people care about their health, their children, their parents, their grandparents, their grandchildren, and their neighbors, right? And that's what people are caring about, their friends, right? And it's across the world,
Sure.
and I sincerely believe we're all the same. And that means that, you know, I tell people that my personal saying is, I am we and we are. And that's because, you know, I'm a part of you, Mark, you're a part of me, and together we're a part of everyone. And that's really where it is. And so if you're a part of me and I'm a part of you, how could I ever not try to help you?
Yeah, there's no doubt, and there's mutual benefit up the wazoo for that in all different types of ways that you can't even imagine. Um, Thanks for being a leader who cares. That's what it is all about. And thanks for joining us on this. And you know, I'm in LA, so we always say, you know, leaving people wanting more allows you to make a sequel. So we'll have to definitely do a sequel and and share more. But it was great meeting you at the 100 billion meal challenge opportunity fund thing there, and looking at innovations in that, and everything else that we'll do together. So really appreciate you and all you're doing. Thanks.
Well, Mark, thank you so much. Really an honor to be here, and look forward to the next time. Thanks.